Hello, my dear students. Welcome to our reading and writing skills class. And for this week, our lesson is all about Let's start our discussion with what academic writing is. When we say academic writing, it is any writing done to fulfill a requirement of a college or university. It also includes any writing assignment given in an academic setting. The focus of academic writing is on stating facts and issues and not on the opinion of the writer, unless it is followed by evidence or claim from another author that has the same stand or opinion as of the writer. It is a formal type of paper and must be in the third-person point of view. The use of jargon and slang words must be avoided. The following are the different characteristics of academic writing. First, it must be planned and focused. It should answer the question and demonstrate an understanding of the subject. Its purpose is to aid the reader's understanding. Next, it is structured. It must be coherent, written in a logical order, and bring together related points and material. Third, it should be evidence. It must demonstrate knowledge of the subject area, support opinion and arguments with evidence, and is referred accurately. Of course, we have to remember that it must be backed up by evidences. And lastly, it must be formal in tone and style. It must use appropriate language and tenses and is clear, concise, and balanced. But it should not use complex and does not require the use of long sentences and complicated vocabulary. So when do we usually do academic writing? The following are the list of documents where academic writing is used, such as book review or article critic, literature review, research report, project proposal, and position paper. We will all discuss this for 2 weeks. So for this week, we will focus on book review or article critic and literature review. Now, let's discuss this one by one. So let's start with book review or article critic. So what is a book review or article critic? It is a form of literary criticism that analyzes the author's ideas, writing techniques, and quality. A book review or an article critic gives essential information about a book or an article and provides an evaluation or a critical analysis of it. Its main purpose is not informational but analytical and persuasive. The writer, in analyzing the content, format, argument, or context within which the book was written, argues that the book is worth reading or not. A book review or article critic is a specialized form of academic writing in which a reviewer evaluates the contribution to knowledge of scholarly works such as academic books and journal articles. In addition to this, it is a critical assessment, analysis, or evaluation of a work. However, it does not just share mere opinion, rather, they use both proofs and logical reasoning to substantiate their opinions. But take care not to equate the word critic to cynicism and pessimism. As an advanced form of writing, it involves your skills in critical thinking and recognizing arguments. They process ideas and theories, revisit and extend ideas in a specific field of study, and present analytical responses. In writing a book review or article critic, the following format or parts must be observed. It should have the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. In writing the introduction of a book review or article critic, you must first describe the book cover and title. Include any subtitles at this stage, and include the author's name. In addition to this, as a starting point for book reviews or article critic, one should use the notes that he or she has taken down while critically reading the material. One should always be guided by the following when writing the introduction. First, you must know the context or information in which the material was written. Mention also the title of the material, the year or date of publication, and the author's name. If writing an article critic, state the main argument or author's purpose of the material. One should come up with a thesis statement that will indicate one's evaluation of the material. And lastly, briefly summarize the book or the main points of the article. The next part is the body. This is the analysis and evaluation part of the review or critic paper. In writing the body of the paper, you may use about 3 quotations from the author's novel. Then, summarize the quotations in your own words. You may also mention your own point of view of the quotation. And remember to keep every point included in its own paragraph. Aside from what is given, you can also do the following in writing the body of a book review or article critic. When writing the body of a book review, you must identify the setting, theme, plot, characterization, and other significant literary devices used by the author. You must also identify how these elements contribute to the overall meaning of the book. Determine also the strengths and weaknesses of the book and the significant human experience and relationships that one can relate with considering one's personal experience. Also, you may identify how is the book like and or different from other books in the same genre. Is the book informative, entertaining, or meaningful? Or should it be recommended to others or not? In writing an article critic, on the other hand, you must identify if the ideas presented are clear and convincing, and what are the pieces of evidence used to support the author's ideas. Are they valid or accurate? You must also identify if the purpose of the writer was achieved. Identifying the overall structure of the article may also help. Are the ideas logically organized and adequately developed? You may also identify the strengths and weaknesses of the article, and what further issues does the article raise. Do you think the article contributes to one's knowledge or understanding of a particular concept or topic? Or is it helpful to other works in its discipline or to works of related topic? These are the things that you have to include in writing the body of the article critic or book review. The last part is the conclusion. This is a summary of the overall evaluation of the material. In writing the conclusion, you may briefly summarize the quotations or summarize the explanations. You may finish with a concluding sentence, or this can include your final opinion of the book. A star rating is optional in writing the conclusion of a critic or a book review. One may include here the main reasons stated in the body paragraphs why he or she agrees or disagrees with the author. You may also cite the reference used in the paper. How are you going to write a book review or article critic? Follow the following steps. Step 1 is planning. Create an essay outline which includes all of the main points you wish to summarize in your book analysis or critic paper. Include information about the characters, details of the plot, and some other important parts of your chosen novel or any reading material. Reserve a body paragraph for each point you wish to talk about. Next, write the introduction. Presumably, you have chosen your book or reading material. To begin, mention the book title and author's name. Talk about the cover of the book. Then, write a thesis statement regarding the fictitious story or non-fictional novel which briefly describes the quoted material in the book review. Next, write the body. Choose a specific chapter or scenario to summarize. Include about 3 quotes in the body. Create summaries of each quote in your own words. It is also encouraged to include your own point of view in the way you interpret the quote. It is highly important to have 1 quote per paragraph. Next, write the conclusion. Write a summary of the summarized quotations and explanations included in the body paragraphs. After doing so, finish book analysis with a concluding sentence to show the bigger picture of the book. Think to yourself, is it worth reading? And answer the question in black and white. However, write in between the lines. Avoid stating I like or dislike this book. And lastly, which is optional, is rate the book or article. After writing a book review or article critic, you may want to include a rating. Including a star rating provides further insight into the quality of the book. Book reviews with star ratings can be more effective compared to those which don't, though this is entirely optional. To make it simple, in writing a book review or article critic, you must first read the material. Read and understand the material first, then take down notes. Formulate questions about the content. The material should be read more than once. And write the review or critic. A paper should give an informed analysis of the material. one should be mindful of the structure of the review or critic. Completing a book review or article critic means that you can pinpoint the strengths and weaknesses of an article or book, and you can identify different perspectives. This task also equips you with more skills to engage in discussions with an expert and makes you a part of a community of scholars. The second type of academic writing that we have to learn is writing a literature review. So what is a literature review? A literature review is a critical analysis of published sources or literature on a particular topic. It is an assessment of the literature and provides a summary, classification, comparison, and evaluation. At postgraduate level, literature reviews can be incorporated into an article, a research report, or thesis. At undergraduate level, literature reviews can be a separate standalone assessment. The literature review is generally in the format of a standard essay made up of three components: an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. It is not a list like an annotated bibliography in which a summary of each source is listed one by one. The purpose of writing a literature review is to let the readers have a full grasp of understanding on the background of one's research, problem, experiment, or investigation. It is also used to analyze critically and synthesize other published writings to one's work or research. Doing a literature review will test your ability to seek literature efficiently and identify useful scholarly work. It will also test your ability to evaluate studies for their validity and reliability. Hence, writing a literature review involves research, critical appraisal, and writing. Based on the given definition of a literature review, it performs the following functions. First, it justifies a research question, method, or theoretical and conceptual framework. Next, it establishes the relevance of the topic. Third, establishes an issue of the study. It also provides necessary information to better understand a specific topic or study. Then, it shows reviewers familiarity and mastery of the topic. Lastly, it resolves conflict among contradictory studies. Just like a book review or article critic, a literature review also has the following structure or parts. It has the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. What should be included in the introduction of a literature review? First, it must include why you are writing a review and why the topic is important. You must also include the scope of the review. What aspects of the topic will be discussed? Also, include the criteria used for your literature selection. It may either be the type of sources used, the date range, and others. Also, the organizational pattern of the review must also be considered. After collecting the information from different sources, and even before writing your introduction, you have to decide on the structure of the literature review. It can either be chronological or thematic literature review. When we say chronological literature review, the information is arranged sequentially in the progression of time. It is best used for historiographical paper and research methodology that focuses more on how the ideas have developed over time. The thematic literature review, on the other hand, defines or describes a theory or categories significant to one's research. It can be compared to an inverted pyramid that focuses on broad to specific topics and ends with a synthesis. The next part of the literature review is the body. It includes the historical background, methodologies, previous studies on the topic, mainstream versus alternative viewpoints, principal questions being asked, and the general conclusions that are being drawn. Each body paragraph should deal with a different theme that is relevant to your topic. You will need to synthesize several of your reviewed readings into each paragraph, so that there is a clear connection between the various sources. You will need to critically analyze each source for how they contribute to the themes you are researching. The last part of a literature review is the conclusion. Your conclusion should give a summary of the main agreements and disagreements in the literature, any gaps or areas for further research, and your overall perspective on the topic. How are you going to write a literature review? First, You have to determine your purpose. Work out what you need to address in the literature review. What are you being asked to do in your literature review? What are you searching the literature to discover? Check your assignment question and your criteria sheet to know what to focus on. Next, do an extensive search of the literature. Find out what has been written on the topic. Third, identify the kind of literature. Select appropriate source material. You may use a variety of academic or scholarly sources that are relevant, current, and authoritative. An extensive review of relevant material will include books, journal articles, reports, government documents, conference proceedings, and web resources. The library would be the best place to search for your sources. Next, determine the number of sources. So how many sources are you going to use? The number of sources that you will be required to review will depend on what the literature review is for and how advanced you are in your studies. It could be from 5 sources at very first year undergraduate level to more than 50 for a thesis. Next, note the bibliographical details of your sources. Keep a note of the publication title, date, authors' names, page numbers, and publishers. These details will save you time later. Next, read the literature. Critically read each source. Look for the arguments presented rather than for facts. Take note as you read and start to organize your review around themes and ideas. Consider using a table, matrix, or concept map to identify how the different sources relate to each other. Next, analyze the literature you have found. In order for your writing to reflect strong critical analysis, you need to evaluate the sources. For each source you are reviewing, ask yourself these questions. What are the key terms and concepts? How relevant is this article to my specific topic? What are the major relationships, trends, and patterns? How was the author structured the arguments? How authoritative and credible is the source? What are the differences and similarities between the sources? Are there any gaps in the literature that require further study? And lastly, write the review. Start by writing your thesis statement. This is an important introductory sentence that will tell your reader what the topic is and the overall perspective or argument you will be presenting. Like essays, a literature review must have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. I hope you understand the first part of our discussion about academic writing. That's all for this week. See you again next week.